Welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul-mouthed, spoiler-filled comic book podcast where two fans and two non-fans talk about controversial or noteworthy comic books and comic book history. I'm Ryan.
I'm Sly.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Daryl.
And here we go. It's time for part 2 of our Flash saga.
Maybe I'm going to become a fan soon enough after all this Flash.
Maybe. Probably not.
But,
you can tell Daryl's back. You can tell Ryan's back because we have a proper intro again. Sorry, I cut you
Roasted, you guys.
Sorry, I got cut you off, Phil.
That wasn't
okay.
anything important.
So we are... So if you remember last week, Flash, Barry Allen, murdered Reverse Flash and then went into the future with his wife, who was secretly a fat man.
And my argument was, it's not murder, it's self-defense.
Yes. And now we are going to skip ahead several years to 1993. And in the meantime, we talked about, we briefly mentioned that Barry Allen died, saving the universe in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And now we are going to follow the second or third Flash, Wally West, who was Kid Flash. We saw him briefly last time, that now he has taken up the mantle. And we are going to be covering issues 73 to 79 of his run.
Hold on.
Yes.
Crisis on Infinite Earths. Did we read that?
No. We read the sequel. We read the sequel, Infinite Crisis.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But Crisis on Infinite Earths is where that Superboy Prime and the like old Superman come from.
Okay.
Crisis on Infinite Earths was the original merging of all the timelines where they're trying to consolidate the stuff. Come on, Phil, listen to the podcast.
It's when Alfred became Batman's surrogate father and all the stuff you know now because they wanted to simplify all the comic history to be what you know now, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, it's considered the modern part of DC. That's why up until Flashpoint, everyone always talked about pre-crisis or post-crisis as two pretty clear divides.
And that's when there was the big corpse of the big galactic thing, right?
Yes, yeah, that's the bad guy from Crisis on Infinite Earths.
And Barry died fighting him.
Barry died to save the universe. And
he ran so fast he became energy or something?
Yes, pretty much. And then Kid Flash took over and started, his run. I really like all of his run, but it's generally considered to really step into high gear when Mark Waid, who you guys talked about in the Irredeemable episode, takes over. And his
are you doing all these speed puns on purpose, Ryan? I really liked his run until he got hit to high gear with Mark Waid's run.
I'm not. I'm just that's my default autopilot when I talk about the Flash's puns.
The monarch of movement.
So Mark Waid started by recapping Kid Flash's origin, and then pretty quickly started to expand what he felt the Flash franchise should be. And this is really, to me, the start of Waid's mega story about developing the Flash franchise. And so this is the story called The Return of Barry Allen by Mark Waid and Greg LaRocque.
We decided we didn't do enough Christmas episodes, so we were going to do another Christmas episode, actually. And
yes.
It starts out with Wally West decorating the tree.
So technically issue 73 is not part of this story. It just kind of ends with the stinger, but so we don't really have to spend a lot of time on it. But the main thing the reason why I wanted to include it is because it is a Christmas episode or Christmas issue, as Phil said, where what it really is it's a team up between Wally and the Golden Age Flash, Jay Garrick, who he was in hell for a long time. And he just,
I was just going to say, man, I really liked Jay Garrick in this, but now that
he wasn't in hell because he was sentenced. Him and the Justice Society were fighting a demon for all eternity or whatever. But
okay, so they're kind of trapped in hell. He wasn't set.
Yeah, he was.
that was their way because they don't know what to do with Justice Society for a long time because they were the older heroes, but they're so these heroes let's just put them in hell, and that'll be their finale. But then eventually they brought him back to be legacy characters for the modern heroes here.
Yeah. Because this is about the same time that we had Nightfall, where Batman gets broken by Bane, Death of Superman, and Green Lantern was about to become Parallax. And so you had DC was starting to embrace the legacy aspect. So they figured it would be a good time to bring back the Justice Society as these grandpa figures that are mentors to the current young heroes.
This is the thing DC hates nowadays. I don't know if I'm pretty sure they did it by now, but when they did the Flashpoint reboot, they got rid of all Justice Society, made him young, and put him on the alternate reality. This is the kind of thing they generally hate nowadays, having older heroes come in and teach younger heroes.
Yeah, yeah. So the main bulk of this issue is just to show how Wade was trying to reformat the Flash franchise to be more of a family style book, where with like a larger cast that were more based on personalities, less so like team power dynamics. So we have Wally and his girlfriend Linda are decorating the tree, and Wally's very anxious about it, and he's like, "Wait, no, I got to put this ball here," and basically everyone's starting to get annoyed at how antsy Wally is. So Jay, the old Flash, and his wife basically decide that she's trying to cook, and Jay's like, I'll get Wally out of the house and we'll go do some like speedster stuff and just like go have some fun and help him work out some of this extra energy.
I like this joke because Jay Garrick's wife's trying to be friendly, and Wally keeps butting into the kitchen, and she's trying to keep on his friendly face, but she goes to Jay and says, "Get him out of the house before I kill him." And Jay's like, yeah.
And they also they have a nice exposition where she's like, "I'm glad him and his new girlfriend are here. It feels like a real family." And Jay's like, "He's like the son we never had." Like, it really, I put this in to catch you guys up on everyone's relationship.
Yeah, and I appreciated you including this one because I like seeing their relationship and how infrequently we see like a mentor like underling relationship that's not like with a child. Like it's like two adults helping each other, because it's like as you get older, that is what like your relationship with your parents become.
Yeah, definitely. And the main in this issue, you have a lot of, this is where I think Wade really excels, is you have Wally talking about like he's an adult now, and he used to, Christmas used to be all about like getting the new baseball mitt, and now it's like it's about friends and family, and he knows that that's like good and better and more mature, but he still misses the like excitement of being a kid. And while they're doing that, they're like, this woman is dropping all her presents. They save her. They go to a soup kitchen and hand out food to everybody. At super speed. They shovel everyone's driveway. And then they end up saving this pregnant girl who's about to get hit by a car. And they bring her into a church because it's the closest place they have.
And if you run into someone that's pregnant, they're probably going to give labor soon.
Yeah. So what happens is she says her husband he works at a department store, and it's his last night, and he can't find any other work, and nobody's hiring, so he kind of fell into a bad crowd, and he's gonna rob the store so that he can provide for the child, and she's begging them to stop him. And I really like that Wally's like, we gotta take her to the hospital, and Jay, being like this mentor figure, is like, no, we can't move her, that's really dangerous. So he runs and brings doctors to her.
I love the idea that you can run people around at super speed all the time, but if they're pregnant, like, the baby will explode.
I mean, I think it's more like she's in labor. That's probably not a good...
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be... It's the same thing like when people are hurt.
Yeah.
Like,
I like how, because there's minimal dialogue on this page. The doctor is just brought in looking confused, and he immediately is like, okay, time to enter doctor mode. It's like in the video game where you put, like, the doctor into like, your infirmary ward in your video game, and the doctor makes starts going to work.
Yeah. Well, Jay does say, like, I'll stay here, you go take care of Joey, this husband guy. And Wally goes to the department store, and one thing that I really like about the way Wade writes speed, he does this a lot throughout his run, is a lot of times Wally is using his speed, but it still doesn't help him solve the problem, because here he's looking all over, and he's like double checked and triple checked everyone in the store, and he can't find this guy because she showed him a picture of him. And like, I like the idea that, like, the only way that he figures it out is he has to stop and realize, wait, if it's his last day, the only employee I didn't check is the mall Santa.
And they had a nice bit of foreshadowing for this, too, because they have this little kid going to the mall Santa saying, Santa, I'll take my presents! And Santa's like, no, I gotta go to the North Pole, ho, ho, ho. And this kid becomes important later on.
So Wally finally figures it out, and he's like, wait, I gotta find Santa, and he can't find him. And meanwhile, this guy, Joey, is breaking into the room, where all the money is kept, and he fills a bag, and he's like, I'm sorry, it's all for the best. And while he's going outside, this little kid that Sly mentioned before is like, but Santa, you didn't hear what I wanted. And he's like, I gotta go, kid. But the guy's still trying to be, like, friendly and Santa. And he's like, don't worry, like, well, what about your dad? He'll take care of your mom, because all the kid wants is for his mom to be taken care of. And he's like, I can't. Mommy's so sad. Dad's gone. Dad's in jail. And
my dad's in jail, and it shows him, like, thinking about that. He's
and there's a silent panel of the snow falling on both of them.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I think this is a good point to mention. What do you guys think of Greg LaRocque's art?
I enjoyed it. It's always like hard because you know how I feel about like colors, like the comic book colors and stuff. And to me, that always like skews my perception of the art, especially like it makes me feel like a lot of these artists are similar to each other.
I could definitely see that.
Did he do the art in all of these issues or just this one?
Just about all of them, I think.
I was going to mention this later when we get to more speed fighting, but I did like the way that the speed is portrayed usually. How he would show like in the same panel, you see the Flash 5 different times as it goes through his movement at super speed. They do that with all the speedsters, and I think it's a really effective way to not just be like, yeah, it's a red blur every panel, and you know.
I like LaRocco's art in a lot of the panels, but I'm not sure if he's great for superhero art because his anatomy gets weird sometimes. Like there's one panel where, panels where Wally's running after trying to find the employee. He show his ass, and he's like dummy thick. Like his butt cheeks are like
the Flash is always dummy thick.
I know, but his butt cheeks are like a separate muscle from like his leg. It is like,
I think I remember seeing that. It's when you draw like the whole cheek.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? If he runs as his main thing, his ass would be super strong.
Yeah, but like even like the splash page, it's mostly Wally and Barry where it looks the most outputting. I think everyone else he looks fine. It's just that the muscles are so defined on both of them that it really like brings this sharp contrast. Maybe it's because I know a lot of anatomy, and this is so 90s.
I know
that you do, Sly.
This feels very 90s anatomy. That's the best way to put it. Like it's so muscular.
So LaRocca's actually one of my favorite Flash artists, and the reason why is because this still, like you said, it is still pretty 90s. So like the coloring's very 90s. A lot of the anatomy is still pretty 90s. Like this is 93. This is like peak Rob Liefeld time, but he still manages to put a lot of emotion into his faces and characters, and especially as we'll see later, we're gonna meet a whole bunch of characters, and I find them all very visually distinctive, and I never get confused who's who.
That's why I don't want to shit on him too much, because when he's not drawing Wally, like when the scenes where like Wally's out of costume talking to Jay and stuff like that, that's where the book the art really shines, because he really does give a lot of expression to their faces and stuff. I think,
that's why I like him a lot, because this is before Mark Waringo, who's like one of like the most like iconic artists of this time, takes over the book with Mark Waid, which is usually considered like the peak. But I really like this stuff because this is when Waid is building this like family tone, and having everyone be really distinct and have personality in their faces is like really important to me. And when you look at 93, there wasn't a whole lot of this around. So I'm a big fan. But anyway, going back to the action. So while he's sitting there with this kid, a bunch of like generic goons show up.
They're so cliche. They're like,
yes,
reconsider if you want, but bear in mind, this don't have to be no silent night. And I'm not exaggerating it. That's exactly how it's written on the page.
Yes.
Burn 'em, boys! My favorite trope is just random guys that show up just to be like assholes and then immediately get beat up by a superhero.
Well, they say like, give us the money, and Joey's like, no, I made a mistake, like I'm bringing it back. And he tells the kid to run, and they start firing at him, and Joey puts his body in front of the kid, like to try to protect the kid, and they like really fire on him, but luckily the Flash ran by and grabbed all the bullets.
Grabs all their bullets, and they're like, what happened? I don't get it, you should be dead. And then the Flash just beats him up.
Yeah. And then Wally's like, I'll take this kid home. You go find your wife. Just go wander in the icy storm. But then,
well, he tells them it's like 2 blocks over in a church. Look for it in a church.
Yeah.
And so he goes in there, and then you get like a silent, like just quiet panels of him seeing his wife and being happy that they have a newborn child.
You get it? It's Joseph and Mary, guys.
Oh my god, I did not.
I know there's some religious, because like DC's more religious than Marvel generally. I know there's some religious context here because they have the church and the shining light above the church. But I didn't connect it.
I'm not gonna lie, I've read this story so many times. This is the first time I piece that together. But I like it better when it's that way, when it's not like so ham-fisted. Like if everybody knows,
instead of like Joseph, Mary, meet your new son Jesus.
Yeah, so then Wally goes back and he's telling the story, and Linda gives him his his Christmas present, and it's a baseball mitt, and he's like, it's perfect. And then they kiss, and there's a ring at the doorbell, and they open the door, and it's Barry Allen. He's back from the dead.
Barry Allen, what?
Shit.
Oh, what?
I love that face he makes when he walks in. Who?
So now, issue 74, which is the next issue. So the cover shows like a bunch of flashes, and you see in the center is also Barry Flash. And we didn't mention how distinctive their costumes are. Barry's costume is the one like most people think of when they think of Flash. Wally's is more like shimmering, and he has like Batman.
They call him shiny suit or whatever.
Yeah, it's a darker red. It's got more defined like muscles. And the belt, instead of being straight across belt, it kind of like points down.
It's like two lightning touching each other in the center.
Yeah. So it points down. So it's like you, and his eyes are white, like you said, the Batman eyes. So like even when they're standing next to each other and they're in pretty much the same costume, you could always tell who's who.
Yeah.
So you like how distinctive like the costume is compared to Wally's?
So
I mean, Perry's.
I don't necessarily care for this Wally costume in general, but it was the costume already. Like this costume's left over from the previous run, and it's not my favorite Flash costume, but I do like that if you're gonna have two characters with the same costume, I never get confused on who's who, which is good.
See, my thing when I was reading this, I feel like one of my struggles with like the Barry Wally stuff is that until Wally like just cuts off the top of the costume and just lets his hair out, I've always like it's crazy to me that they have essentially the same costume. And even though here, like Sly was saying, it's like you can tell the difference between them when they're in panel together because it's like one has darker, like harder ink on him because he's like in a shiny, like shimmering costume.
This is a hollow foil version, the 90s hollow foil version of Barry.
Well, the thing that I'll give to defend that is in hindsight, it is very easy to have that complaint. But at the time, they were never the Flash at the same time for decades. But
I think it's just the fact that Wally like and it's tough because like I don't like how it looks visually, aesthetically, but thematically it makes sense why he wouldn't change the costume.
Yeah, they do also. That is a major part of this arc. It actually, as he talks about how he took Barry's costume to honor him,
which I can see. But again, it's like they don't. I don't know. Like I would have liked him to be like more different, but I understand why he's not.
Yeah.
Well, the whole point is that he's not supposed to be different. If he's like drastically different, then the theme of the story would kind of be diminished.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
So story opens with Wally flashing back, like when he's holding Barry's costume at the end of Flashpoint, the funeral for Barry. And he's basically like flashing back, thinking about how
I love seeing Psycho Pirate here again. I was like, I know him now.
And one thing, just the art, there's lots of really neat visual cues that LaRoque does. Like, so it has Wally as Kid Flash watching over like Barry's tombstone, like at his funeral, and there's Hal Jordan Green Lantern and Jay Garrick Flash, and then it cuts to the next panel where it's now, and it's adult Wally in the exact same position, and then you have everyone is in civilian clothes, but it's Hal, Barry, and Jay again. So then when they start talking, Barry calls Hal by name, but you know visually that that's who it is without them having to be like, and remember, this is Green Lantern, this is his friend.
I will say, in choosing Hal was kind of a mistake, because I got confused later on when Jay shows up. And I'm like, Hal's back. Oh, yeah, Jay's in story too.
That's always like one of the weird things too is how everyone it roughly kind of looks the same age, even when it's like a mentor mentoring someone who's mentoring someone else.
Yeah.
And it's like they're all within 20 years of each other. I'd say they look like Jay doesn't look like an old man. He looks like a fit 50-year-old.
Well, he's kept young by the Speed Flash.
Yeah,
but it's like
it's
they
always
gray in the same way. Like they both have the gray like on the bottom of their hair, but the top is still the brown.
The Reed Richards look, the Mitt Romney.
This is kind of like how Batman and Superman both look similar, but because they're both created separately, and coincidentally both creators came out and like they were never meant to be in the same book together at the same time. So like this was Hal, the only time where Hal looked old, and like when Jay managed to stay young, like Ryan said. So coincidentally, when they show up on panel together, they look exactly the same because they were never meant to be the same comic together ever.
Yeah.
I've never seen Batman and Superman in the same room together.
Yeah.
They really do look like Mitt Romney.
They really do. Holy shit. So Barry explains to both Mitt Romneys.
I'm gonna vote to convict Trump.
It's a bunch of like comic book bullshit where they're like, in a previous story, Wally was fighting Dr. Alchemy, and his magical stone must have reformed my energy, and now I woke up naked in a dumpster.
Yeah, he terminated.
I was just about to say that. It's like he gets terminated. Basically, he's like, well, I didn't remember anything, but then I went to the Flash Museum accidentally, and I saw, the Flash statue, and it sparked his memory of basically everything.
That's one thing I have to say about what's really good about this issue. It feels very self-contained. This feels like it's very much setting up like this typical, this hero's back, here's the comic explanation, now you have to accept that he's back. That's very much how this particular issue is structured.
Yeah.
Because it's Wally like saying, I don't know if I can buy that Barry is back, and like Hal actually uses his Green Lantern ring while he's talking to Barry to scan him to see if he's lying, and Hal is like, he's not lying. From what I could tell, it's a real deal, Wally.
And I love how Hal's like, I get it. We're in comic world. There's shapeshifters and mindbenders and all this stuff, but like I think this is real.
Yeah.
And I do like that, like, this shows to me Wally's strength as a more modern character, where all the Silver Age and Golden Age characters like, that shit happens all the time. That makes sense. And Wally's like, I don't know, that seems awfully convenient.
Yeah. Seems like a bad writer made this up.
It is like tough living in this world, and like someone who's been dead comes back, because people that die can come back in this world.
But you also know there's like clones and shit all the time.
Yeah, and there's so many guys that do like this weird.
I don't know how your
mindfuckery.
psyche deals with living in a superhero-filled world. Like it's same reason I'm always like, how could those criminals from the last issue? You live in the city with where the Flash exists. I'm like, you're really ballsy.
Two Flashes,
Yeah,
two
you
of
have
them.
big balls to.
There was if you ever watched the show Legion with Professor X's son, they actually had his mom show up in the comics, and they had and the story where she dies, like Felicia's like, we live in the superhero world because I can save you, and she's like, please don't do that. I want to die like a normal person in the normal world. And like that's probably why she said that, because like it might seem great, like you can never die with all you have to deal with clones and shapeshifters and all that stuff too. Like it's a complete package of a bunch of bullshit.
Cremate me so my DNA can never be used to make a future version of myself or whatever.
So then, speaking of, I'm going to go back to the thing I was talking about of how, like, Wally's a more modern character, because now we have Barry sees one of the Flash's old villains, the Pied Piper, walking down the street.
Just walking down the street in his green Pied Piper costume.
Yeah, and at this point in the book, Pied Piper has been completely reformed and was actually one of the, like, first gay comic book characters in a regular book.
Really?
Yeah. And so he's walking down to tell Wally, because he still has some connections, so he like gives Wally like some tips about like big crimes going, and Barry like immediately grabs him and he's like, you're going to jail. And Wally's like, it's not what you think. And Piper's like, Wally, can you save him? And he's like, he knows what a dastardly rogue, he knows your name. And Wally's like, see, it's more nuanced than that. Some people were bad and are good now, and also I told everyone who I was.
And Barry's like, you crazy, telling you make it like private identity public?
Yeah.
And Wally's like, we're friends, I trust him. And also, like, everybody knows who Wally West is. It's not a problem.
This was secretly, I think, my favorite touch in this whole arc, is just that the Pied Piper was a reformed villain. Because thinking about it, it's like, this guy, like, what could he do? He could play music and do stuff with it, right?
Yeah.
I like the idea of just him getting to a point where it's like, I'm just tired of being beat the shit out by the Flash.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a good guy. And I'm like, that's because the more like campy kind of like the villains can be, the more they can be, like we had said last time, like the Riddler, where it's like, I just want to have like fun when I do villainy. I don't want to like terrorize
Ryan's
people.
favorite Riddler runs actually when he became a private detective competing with Batman, I think, right?
And
Yeah, that's part of the same run that Sleigh Ride was in, the Joker Christmas issue.
And like we said last time too, it's more, I can buy more that they would be taken in as more campy villains, where it's like mass murderers when they're like, I think I might be a good guy now. It's like,
yeah, like I don't think a Professor Zoom's ever gonna turn to the good side. Like, I see the light now, I'm gonna be good. Like, he's an asshole forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that situation in Bleach where that guy was just accepted back in after torturing Kung
Yeah. So, and this is also, so Piper gives him the information, and Wally runs in and changes into a suit, and he comes out and he's like, I'll put an end to this. And then he realizes, oh, Barry hasn't seen that I wear
they
his
just said
suit
before,
now.
I haven't, he told Hal, I haven't told him yet that I took the Flash suit and name, but I'll tell him soon. And then when he runs out as the Flash uniform.
Yeah, just not thinking, which is a nice touch, because that's something you would kind of do like out of instinct when something's in danger. So he's just like, oh, I'm gonna be Flash. Oh wait, I'm Flash. Sorry, I didn't tell you, Barry. So then he's Barry, like, it's okay. And the thing that the Pied Piper tipped him off on was that this millionaire, this narcissistic millionaire who like looks at his mirror all the time. The guy's name is Handsome Jack Giacomo, the Venus Man Crime, and he has a hit on by other people trying to kill him.
Yeah, and as they're running to go see Handsome Jack, Barry mentions to Wally that, like, since he took the Flash, he's like, yeah, that's a good name. Big boots to fill, though.
So then when they go to Handsome Jack, so Flash is like, I gotta get you out of here, but he's like, no, I'm here for the carnival, because they meet him at a carnival. He's like, I ain't about to break what, and leave the park? Forget about it. Literally written, forget about it.
He mentions that he was the one that tipped Piper off, because he's like, hey, with two Flashes here, now you guys aren't going to let him assassinate me, right?
Yeah. So
and Wally gets really pissed, and he's like, we should let this guy die. Barry's like, nah, he's kind of right. Like, we can't.
So Wally, in turn, monologue's like, did I ask for a lecture? He's kind of like a little bitter that Barry's like scolded him, but he's like, he's right. So then he goes around trying to find the snipers. He finds the first one on top of a roller coaster. And the second one, there's a brilliant strategy of figure out where Handsome Jack's going to go, which is the House of Mirrors, because Handsome Jack's just looking at his reflection all the time. And so now Wally's like, fuck. Well, it's a typical Hall of Mirrors scene where...
even though I'm so fast, my vision is used against me. I'm like, you still have all the time in the world to walk through this place. But
yes.
This is still the thing that I think like Wade does well. Like he did it last time too, where Wally has to stop. Like just running fast enough isn't enough. He has to stop and think. And yeah, sure, he thinks I'm just gonna kick through a bunch of these mirrors. But like, even though it's just one panel, Wade is constantly putting in these things that like sometimes just being able to run fast has limitations.
Yes, and that's one problem with the Flash TV show. After a while, you realize the solution to every problem is Barry. You gotta get faster. That's literally every episode solution. So like, I appreciate how Mark Waid mixes it up. So he realizes that he has to be behind the mirrors. He can't be just inside the wall. The assassin has to be behind the mirrors. So he pushes the mirrors and sees the assassin hiding behind one of the mirrors, preparing to shoot through the mirrors. And
then he tackles him while Barry saves the Handsome Jack guy.
Yeah, and so then they're like, yeah, we see the day. They take the assassin away, but Barry's like, you can handle this. I gotta go. I'll catch up with you later. And he runs away.
Yeah, gotta go by.
Yeah, and Wally's like, that's suspicious. But then he goes and finds out that Barry went to Iris's grave, and he says, Barry says to himself, or to Iris's spirit, saying, I miss you, I love you. You should see your nephew, he's great. And Wally overhears this and says, like, I was suspicious at the time, but I was wondering, like, if you were really Barry, you were blind for Iris by now, but now I see that you're truly Barry. And the issue basically ends on Wally accepting Barry's back. Yeah, he's the greatest hero I've ever known. I'm proud to follow in his footsteps. So the two run off together.
Yeah, sweet. I was like, this is nice. I actually like the last one and this one a lot. I was like, it's cool. I actually didn't think I would enjoy multiple Flashes in the same story, but I was like, this is pretty good.
And I think we mentioned that Iris like went to the future and everything. I don't think anybody but Barry knew that.
Yes, that's the plot point for later. Actually.
Yeah. So like Wally thinks that Iris was just killed by the Reverse Flash and like that was it. So when Barry says like, how come I get to come back from the dead and she doesn't, Wally is he doesn't know about their time in the future together.
So wait. When Iris went to the future, it's when Professor Zoom killed her? Her consciousness went to the future?
Yeah, back to the future. And also Mark Waid wouldn't have done...
I thought she was just from the future.
Also that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really stupid.
This is one of the reasons why when Barry died and Wally took over, they like didn't fold in the vast majority of that stuff, and it very much was like a clean cut where like Wade likes to mention stuff and bring stuff up, but like it really is like when you compare Barry and Wally, like I read all of Wally's run before I read any Barry Allen Flash, and I had like no problem whatsoever. Like it's not one continuous story. It's very much two different things.
Yeah, and you don't even know like if that stuff with the time travel stuff is even like still canon anymore at this point, probably.
Yeah.
So who knows? It turns out it is, but we'll find out that later on.
Yeah.
So the third one we're reading, issue 75, has the cover with 3 Flashes, Barry, Wally, and Jay running up a building, fighting crime together.
Flash family, back in action.
So they're fighting these like high-tech future commandos that are stealing like a money train or something.
They look like
these guys are so 90s.
Yeah, this is really
they're
90s.
like they're single color like dudes in these very big bulky suits with these giant wires going everywhere.
They feel like video game Marines.
Yeah.
Yes.
With big laser guns or something that somehow they're big. Yeah,
Sonic
so they can
guns,
hit the Flashes or something. Whatever. So they basically
rip off of Intergang, the guys with big tech guns, but like 90s.
Or like AIM from Marvel.
Yeah.
They kind of remind me of that.
Yeah, I mean they're generic '90s guys with big sci-fi guns.
No, let's find more.
So basically, they're trying to stop them from taking this train. The 3 of them, and then the train flies off the tracks in the middle of the fight and is heading toward a elementary school, I think, or a middle school or something. And
Barry runs up and he starts spinning his arms, and like Wally mentions that he uses trick. It's like he uses cyclonic force in hopes of stopping the train. He usually just sees that to break falling window washers, but now like he's trying to use it like spinning his arms and trying to stop a train with the Force, and then Jay runs up and joins him, and Wally's like, great, now they'll both be friend. Now I do like a lot of like Wally's internal like narration, because I feel like, and again, it's like it's the style of like the comics versus like the old comics versus the new, where the old comics is like Barry Allen doesn't suspect that blah blah blah,
Yeah.
whereas like here, like you get more of like Wally's sarcasm, which endears you to him because he's still kind of like hot-headed.
Surely they don't expect me to join their little suicide run. I'm still young. I've got a full life ahead of me. Oh hell.
And Wally, Wally's a more relatable character too. Like this is Barry. Like Barry likes putting on the script. His internal monologue, we putting on the script. But Wally has a very distinctive personality. I remember even Ryan admitted that when we read Teen Titans, we found Wally could be kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
So like that's one thing that's interesting about his growth is it's him kind of becoming more heroic over time instead of being a natural heroic figure like Barry was.
Like when he first becomes the Flash, his first stories, he'll only do superheroics for money, because to be the Flash he has to eat a lot of food and he can't afford it. So he's like, you gotta pay me.
I mean, it makes sense.
That's good. I like that.
So
And so a important plot point here is, so all the crazy stuff that Ryan said he loves about Flash, but he can vibrate to walls and like do magic with his speeding stuff. Wally can't do most of that stuff.
Wally can't do any of that stuff.
And so when they stop the train, some kids are like, "Can I have your autograph, Flash?" And Wally turns around. He's like, "Yeah, of course, son." And then Barry is signing the autograph because he's the Flash too. And he's like, "Maybe someday you'll follow my footsteps."
Then it cuts to Wally eating fast, like Ryan suggested.
Well, it's not just while eating fast. It's him and Linda talking, and I really like. Wade does a lot of this stuff with Linda. Like you asked last time about how I felt about Iris or Fiona. Linda is a much, much, much better character.
These 3 pages, I was like, this is what I want to see in like a relationship between people. It starts with like him eating, and then as she's preparing dinner, he's helping her with dinner. He's like, "How much of this should I cut up?" And she's like, "How many tacos can you eat?" And he's like, "I'll do it all."
The funny thing is, since Iris is like easily the most developed like Flash supporting female character, when in like a lot of adaptations like in the Flash TV show, since Flash has so few like noticeable like great female characters, they actually have Barry Day Iris. So why gets
You mean Linda?
Linda, sorry.
Yeah, you use Iris.
Goddamn.
Linda's the most like established.
Yeah, and also like
character,
Linda
you're saying.
was introduced as kind of a foil to him for like years. She was a reporter that didn't trust him, and over time they slowly developed a relationship. Like she was not a love interest. Wally had several other love interests while she was in the book. And then they slowly, like, over time got together and developed into, like, this really, really great relationship. And it's just so... It's one of, if not my favorite relationship in comics, because she's a real character. So, like, here...
I love how much superheroes date female reporters.
Yeah.
It's so many.
That's like their version of coworkers besides the other superheroes. It's like, who do they spend time with? The reporters chasing them.
Phil,
What?
your mic's doing that slowdown thing again.
Oh my god.
So, as Daryl was saying, these 3 pages of Wally and Linda are that they're cooking. Wally cuts everything up, and they're making tacos together. And they're talking a lot about, like, Wally's insecurities, about, like, being, now I'm just one of 3 Flashes. And he asks, you got a job offer in another city recently. Would you, want to take that? And she's like, no, like, you told me not to take that. We're staying here now. You convinced me to stay here. And then he's like, well, I just feel like, they don't really need me anymore. So she's like teasing him of, why don't you change your superhero name? Why don't you be the Cheetah or Pegasus?
This is a question they should bring up nowadays, because why doesn't Wally change his fucking name nowadays?
Yeah.
But,
or Quicksilver. And he's like, that's taken.
That's very taken.
Yeah.
And then she's like, what about Mr. Zip? And then Wally starts saying, oh yes, Mr. Zip, an incredible merciless tickle attack from the fearsome Mr. Zip. And he starts tickling Linda until Jay calls him on the phone.
Yeah, and like they have this really like flirty but like fun, like it feels like mid-20s couple like living together for the first time kind of like relationship. And I really like how often he like sounds off to her about like, I'm upset about this thing. Like they actually like really discuss actual like feelings. And this is one of the reasons why the 90s in DC are so good to me, because you have characters like Kyle Rayner and characters like Wally West that were kind of subverting the like big muscly paradigm. Like, yeah, they're still, as we said, like they're still dummy thick, but they're like, they're not just I know what's right. They're not that
one
like
could say they're more sensitive, and they also confide in their partner rather than like, all right, woman, I hope to have dinner ready soon.
You mean the start of the soy boy wars?
Yeah.
But in general, this is why I've never like was big on the Superman being Jesus allegories and stuff like that, because I'm used to '90s DC. Because people, the stereotype is Marvel is people trying to be gods, while DC is gods trying to be people. But for me, I've always viewed DC as very relatable because I grew up with Wally and Kyle, and even Superman at this time. He was like a incredibly nice figure, but there was as much emphasis on him being like this untouchable god figure as he is nowadays.
Yeah.
Like he was these all felt like real people to me, and even like Batman. Like this is when they question like who's really the mask, Bruce Wayne or Batman? Well, a lot of people back then, I think even now, it's shifted back that Bruce Wayne is always the mask, Batman is always a real face, and I like more where it's a question of which one is real right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So Wally and Jay run out to go. They get a lead on the warehouse for the people that hit the train.
Yeah, because they stopped them, but like their group is still elsewhere.
Yeah. He runs into Barry in this like alleyway, and he's just like kind of, he feels kind of lost, and he's like, oh, it's just, I'm really disoriented, it's really weird, I don't really know why I came back, and like, for you guys it's been years, for me it's like a blink of an eye, and they're like, come on, let's go to work, maybe it'll help clear your head.
He says, something's pulling me to this alley, but I don't know what. I feel like I should be here, but I can't tell why.
Yeah,
and they show this passing like gross, not gross looking, but like burnt up book in the alley. We don't know what it is,
filthy.
And it says Alan on it.
Yeah.
Ooh. So they go there, and the cops have like a perimeter around it, and they all have like riot gear and big, I guess, snipers or whatever these cops have. And Barry wants to rush in because like cops are being threatened, and the thin blue line. That's the implication. I'm not projecting. They say
no, but I think he said, I don't know if he said it here, but he said at some point that Barry was a forensic cop. He was still a cop. Something some connection he has to these people.
Yeah, I'm not projecting it. Like they do say, like he's a cop, so he's taking this personally.
Yeah.
But before they have a chance to run in, these guys come out in this huge tank with this huge sci-fi gun, and they're blowing up cars. And they all it has just the three Flashers doing lots of different stuff. Like Jay is using his hat to hit bullets back at them.
Yeah, he catches the bullets in the hat and then flings them back.
Yeah, and Barry is like vibrating the ground so that they fall off the tank. And Wally runs to save a couple cops, and a bunch of rocks fall on top of him. And the guy starts yelling like, I'm the one who killed the Flash. And it cuts to Barry, who's like, you did what? And he has this huge sonic boom that then like he knocks all these guys around, and Wally wakes up and he's like, I can't hear anything, but I could see Barry's ripping apart this guy with his bare hands. He's not actually, he's like about to. He's not
He's
really
like beating the
ripping
shit
him
out of
apart.
him.
I guess he honestly believes I'm dead. Look at him. He must be railing madly at the guy for killing me, bellowing rage, swearing revenge. As I get closer, though, his exact words start to filter through all the white noise, and what I really hear, and it shows like his shocked, like bloody face as Barry throws the guy down. And then I was like, what was he saying? And I was thinking that he was saying, I'm gonna vibrate through your head, like he was threatening to.
Me too.
Because I thought,
Me too.
because as we're going along, the thing is Ryan cultivating and picking these out, it has to be for a reason. I'm like, so now Barry's back, and things can't just be like honky dory and everything's great. I'm like, maybe they're really angling in on the killer thing. He's like, I'm just gonna kill all villains.
Yeah, once he killed once, now he's like,
now he has a lust for blood.
I do like how I guess what Daryl and Phil brought up, but I do like how Wally assumes it is some kind of vengeance for him. Like he is so angry that he wants vengeance, because Wally couldn't understand that. What he can't understand is what Barry was actually saying.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't make you wait a long time. It's on the next page.
Yeah.
After he gets home, he's like, I thought he was trying to avenge me. I want that to be the truth, but no matter how often I replay that moment, it won't come out that way. Half deaf, I run to Barry. He screams, knife through the silence, and what I really hear horrifies me. And it cuts to Barry's face saying, I'm the Flash. Do you understand me, punk? I'm the Flash.
So basically, instead of him being the guy saying, I just killed the Flash, and Barry said, you killed the Flash and we'll go after you, he's saying, what? You're saying you killed the Flash? I'm the Flash. You didn't kill me, you piece of shit. He's getting indignant over that.
And I was like, this is actually a kind of interesting twist on this thing that I don't know if whether or not like Barry's like fully in his right mind, because it seems like, you know, where he was in the alley,
He's
just
on
like,
Angel
I'm looking
again.
for something. But this is a really cool idea of, it's not like him like, oh, I'm gonna murder all you guys. It's like he's still obsessed with being the Flash, because it is a good like idea. Like if Superman disappeared and then Superboy became Superman, and then Superman comes back and Superboy's like, well, like I'm still Superman now. It's like, what do you do about that as like the old hero? So the issue 76 begins, and the stinger on the cover is, "You're about to experience the most tragic day in the life of Wally West." I'm pretty sure that's when his kids die, but don't quote me.
This is a reference to something, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there was a Silver Age cover that was basically the exact same thing for Barry, but it was, "You're about to
that's
experience
clever.
the most tragic day in the life of the Flash."
Yeah.
So now it's but that was just like Barry. I don't remember exactly what the cover, but it's the same thing. Black background, just the character.
Yeah, looking
they
sad,
are looking
sitting
very
down.
morose. Yeah.
And so Wally's narration is like how life begins at 10, at least it's his story, because he didn't know it was coming tomorrow until Barry Allen took me under his wing after like the same chemical accident, and he gave me a purpose, a direction, an identity that would totally define my life. It was the greatest gift I ever received. And it shows him like running as like a little kid and fighting alongside him, and then he's recounting how sad he was after the Flash died, but then he came back.
And this whole first scene is kind of recapping the whole story up to this point.
Yeah.
But it has a much more personal, like, it's not just, then this happened, then this happened. A lot of the narration is still Wally being like, and, you know, I couldn't believe it. My hero is back from the dead. Like, you know, my uncle, the guy that I always looked up to. Like, it's more personal than just, like, this is, you know, the best example in here is he's like, I still dress like Barry, I still carry on his name, and even Jay calls me Junior. Like, is there really room for two speedsters? Like, it's more than just recap. It's still Wally's personal reflection.
This is actually very important. I want to emphasize. It's hard to always bring up how important narration is because you have to avoid going through all narration. But essentially, the theme here is that when he says my life started at 10. He never, he doesn't remember his life before he was trying to live up to Barry's legacy, pretty much. Like, he was always trying to live up to Barry. And he can't imagine himself without that being part of him.
And even though we've seen Barry be a piece of shit in the last issue, it still says, in recent weeks, however, one of us has started acting paranoid. I'm not quite frankly, I'm not sure if it's him or me. My problem's obvious. I haven't told anyone, but I'm Mongo nervous that Barry's reemergence as the real... Yeah, me neither. But he's saying Barry's reemergence as the real Flash makes me redundant. And he even says, like, to your point, Daryl, he says, like, I mean, that's my fault. I dress like Barry. I call myself Barry's name. If he ever came back, you know, what does that make me? No.
I like that, he says, like, Jay's been spending a lot of time with him, and he wishes that he could compare notes with him, but Jay's been off. And he says, I guess he's with the Justice Society or something. Those old guys do like to stick together. I like that even he was thinking about, like, maybe I should talk to, like, Jay about this. Which, again, like, is that mentor dynamic where it's like, it's cool that you have someone to confide in rather than just Batman being like, oh, no, I just suspect Robin. I don't...
Yeah. And he gets a letter from Piper that's just like, hey, I have another lead for the Combine, which is the group of guys with all these big guns.
And so it cuts to Jay, and he goes to this business called Quick Start. He goes to the top floor, and the queue, like the little thing, the line at the bottom right of the queue is a lightning bolt. So it shows this guy talking really fast on the telephone. He's like playing golf in his office really fast. So he's obviously
the
a
CEO
speedster.
is obviously a speedster.
But
Right?
he-
He's like,
yeah.
calling. He's talking to like 20 different people on the phone, going through papers, and Jay is like, "Hey," and he's like, "Oh, busy. Hold on." Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "No, this isn't a social call. You need to be ready."
He says, I'm not here to see Johnny Chambers. I'm here to see Johnny Quick.
So I just want to. So this was my first exposure to these guys, and these were like this Wade's Flash run was the only book I'd read with any of these characters in it for like years and years. But just the meta stuff that I just feel is necessary to mention. Not here. We're not going to talk about it here on the show, but Wade was getting ready to, in about 30 issues, he would be introducing the concept of the Speed Force. So what he was doing is he's taking all of DC's speedsters. Like, Johnny Quick was a character in like the 40s. And he's bringing all the speedsters together to kind of unify and get ready to launch a cohesive view of what speedsters' powers are like. So that's one of the reasons why these characters start showing up. But when I first read this, I didn't know these were established characters because they make it just pretty clear. These guys are old, retired speedsters.
Yeah, and like, because this becomes important later on, all the powers work differently, but Mark Wade's idea that even though they all tap into Speed Force in different ways, they're all tapping into the same force.
Yeah. So it's the kind of thing that, like, these characters did exist, but I don't, and I mean, maybe, Daryl, you feel differently, because I know you notice this kind of stuff more than I do, but I didn't feel like I was, like, lost.
I didn't feel like I was lost because to me, I immediately recognized it's like, these are probably some old goddamn characters from, like, forgotten comics. It's one of the things where it's like, only Mark Waid would remember this. Or Grant Morrison.
Only true 90s kids remember these characters.
Yeah, but it was fine because the thing is, they're not like, they're central to the plot, but all you need to know about them is that they're speedsters. I mean, it's tough because I'm like, I would like to know their powers so I can know how useful they are, but the speed people powers are so crazy to me that I'm like, what can this guy do? I'm like, whatever, they can do whatever they want.
They go into more detail about them late as they become more central characters in the book after this arc. So, like, he does address these different aspects and everything in issues that, like, I find really great, just don't necessarily work for the context of the show.
Mm-hmm. And then you have, it cuts back to Wally and Barry, and they're running across some water, and they run by some chicks, so you get some nice chicks in bikinis. Which, that was one of the things I was noticing since this was a 90s comic. There's a lot more just, like, full pages of just, like, women looking sexy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Linda.
Yes, Linda especially is just
sexy.
like, I'm just gonna wear, like, a crop top and these short shorts around the house all the time. Which is like, I guess you would wear that, which would be okay. It's just like the way that it's framed is very noticeable. Like when he was tickling her in one of the panels, I noticed that it shows like under boob. I'm like, that is 100% DNA.
Yeah, and it shows off her gams and stuff. If you're reading 90s Spider-Man, they did this with Mary Jane a lot. They'll show Mary Jane and Peter flirting all the time, and you'll see Mary Jane's gams, and she'll be posing provocatively.
It's the framing that definitely makes it more uncomfortable because, like you said, Daryl, like her just like hanging out at home in like, you know, like clothes like that is fine, but it doesn't have to be a full page kind of.
Or show under boob, like the camera specifically looking up there.
Yeah, so it's like I love Linda a lot more than Iris and Fiona, but her handling is still not perfect.
Yeah.
It's still this comic, like there were no girls buying these comics at these times, so they were trying to cater to preteen markets. So
I would argue it's the counter that not a lot of girls were buying comics this time because of things like this.
They're catering towards the male gaze.
Vicious cycle where now they only see boys in the market, so they're like boys like hot chicks. So there we go.
So they break into the office that
this fucking guy, man,
and this dude appears, and this dude's just like, hey, anyway, I'm super ugly, like again 90s.
I'm wearing a Galaxy 90s X-Men outfit. Basically.
That's I have no idea who's fucking characters, but I assume it's like intergang where to get alien technology from aliens.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a long time since I read the early Wade stuff, but
he's like, you thought it was a trap? Of course it's a trap. I sent you a note. Like, why would you think a letter in the mail saying, come here to find evil headquarters?
But Piper, we trust you.
Yeah, but it's not, how do you know it was from him? It's just a note in the mail.
It had Piper's little like monogram at the top, like his little trumpet. I was like, "That's cool that this guy has his own."
When I ever write letters to my friends, I make sure to put them on official Ryan letterhead.
Yeah, like it's official stationery. You can't forge that ever. Right?
So they run at him, the guy to fight him, but he's a hologram, and then suddenly a force field gets put around them, and I just love how like bullshit this force field is. Because basically, it's like an inescapable force field that as you vibrate against it, it tunes to your frequency, so you can't like vibrate out of it. And it's like it's there; it's just gonna squeeze the life out of you.
Yeah, it's meant to kill flashes, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then before we see how they get out of that, it cuts to a subway where there's just this guy asking how many tokens.
an
MTA official. And then our two speedsters, Jay and the other guy, come up and they're like,
Johnny Quick, man, you gotta remember that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now I gotta remember
I thought we
his
called
name.
people by the gray hair man or whatever.
So
I love Johnny Quick, and but I like my bias.
Yeah, me too.
So he's like, Jay's like, Max, like we're here to see you, and he's like, nope, nobody named by the name of Max here. Just like keep moving, and they keep like trying to get him to acknowledge that he's Max Mercury.
Max Mercury.
And
He used to be called Quicksilver until Marvel got the copyright.
Yeah.
And so they thump against the window, and all of his tokens go everywhere, but he like gathers them up real quickly, and they're like, "Gotcha. See, you are Max."
I love that idea, like how much these people must blow their secret identities all the time when you trip or something, or like you drop something, and they must speed to get like.
Well, that's why the first thing when Wally's first issue, he's just like, "Hey, everybody, I'm the Flash."
Yeah, because I don't know how you
like,
could possibly
it's dumb.
keep that a secret when all the people in your life would see you do shit like this, where you drop something and you
Yeah.
instinctively speed to pick it up.
Yeah, and what's
It's
great-
like that was in Spider-Man 1, the first movie, where he keeps reacting to spider sense all the time and instinctively saves Mary Jane in the lunchroom. Like after a while, you pick up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jay is like, "You owe me," from the Screaming Skull in 1949, remember? And he's like, "You swore you'd never call that one in, not unless it was a matter of life and death." And he's like, "Well, what does that tell you?"
Yeah, I
then?"
like that line.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Hope this still fits," and he holds up his costume.
Slow again.
Oh no, Phil's slow again.
Isn't he always slow?
So Barry Allen and Wally West are trapped inside this force field, and Barry keeps trying to vibrate against it, but he can't because it attunes to his frequency. And so Wally's like, "Well, I can't like vibrate at all, so I'm not that fast." And so Barry's like, "Check this out, though. Like, here," and he puts his hand on it, he vibrates his hand, and Wally's able to, like, hold it on his hand.
Yeah, Wally's like, "I can't vibrate at all." Barry's like, "I'll vibrate for you." He says, "Vibrate."
Yeah, I'll vibrate you. And then he
Yeah.
vibrates him, and he's like, "Now I'm going to change my vibration frequency to something else, and I should be able to, like, get through since it's tuned to your frequency." And so they do it, Barry jumps through, and then Wally gets his hand through, because that's the only thing that's vibrating. It's like, "Hey, it worked." And he's like, I need a little bit of help here,
Yeah,
Barry.
Wally's not still stuck behind the wall. He's like, "Help me, Barry!" And he's like, "Don't leave me hanging! For God's sakes, help me!"
Yeah,
We're
and
a
Barry
team, man.
Barry just has like this face, like just like he kind of looks like he's seen a ghost or something. And then he reaches for his hand in like a panel, and then he pulls his hand back. And Wally's like, "What are you doing? Like, I know like something's been going on in your head these last few days, but like we're a team after all." And he's like, "Very touching. You almost had me too."
Yeah, Barry's like, "The town's not big enough for both of us, Wally."
Yeah. "You stole my name. You tried to replace me. Tried to make the world forget about Barry Allen." And he's like, "What? Look around you. Everyone remembers." But then he's just super mad. He goes and he kicks this model city that was in this room.
Yeah, but Barry's like, "I'm gonna make this ungrateful city remember me now. Not replace me with a fucking young punk like you."
Yeah,
And he says, "Barry, please, you've got it all wrong. I never wanted to take your place. Everything I am, everything I do, I did it to honor you." And Barry goes, "Your mistake."
Yeah.
"Don't feel
And he's
bad
like-
though. You won't live to regret it." And he runs away. He's like, "Barry!" And so he has to focus on.
Yeah, Wally's stuck in a thing. He has to focus to vibrate through using the hole that they created.
Yeah, and as he's pushing through, he's like, "Push everything gently, hurry, everything I am now, easy, just a little further, don't lose it, everything I do now." And that's all inner narration. And then he says out loud, "Now, who is it for?"
What am I fighting for?
And so he,
Yeah, basically, Iris.
yeah, he returns home, and he sees that Barry's on the news, and he's like, "Oh, we found the Intergang hat, but unfortunately, I lost my partner Wally West in the process. I escaped,
Yeah,
but
we
Wally
fell into
West
a
did
trap.
not."
Wally West died. I'll be the Flash again.
Yeah.
And the final page is a full page spread of Wally just crying in his hands, while Barry on TV says the Flash is dead and the Flash's costume is in the trash.
And this is at the point where I was like, if they wanted to make like Barry, they're either doing like they're making Barry a villain, but you guys never talked about Barry being a villain like you did Hal Jordan turns into a villain. So I was like, I don't know about that. So I'm like, there's something wrong with his brain or something. Like something's wrong with his mind.
I thought this was like a Hal Jordan thing again, because I don't listen to what you guys say about these characters. So I was like, they definitely could have mentioned Barry becoming like Parallax, and I would not know.
Honestly, like he was a fucking killer, and we barely bring that up. Like,
Yeah.
but he like no one brings up the fact that he was a convicted murderer before he left. Like people act like he was still the Barry before that story arc happened. So they can just, it's very likely they can brush over him being a villain. Like, for a while.
I feel like there's such a difference between killing in self-defense and then letting a superhero die because they stole your name.
I'm talking about the community in Flash.
People don't talk about Barry Allen because he's really fucking boring.
I'm talking about the community in Flash. Like, it makes no sense that Barry's considered a hero, considering his last act officially in Flash continuity was being until Crisis, I guess. But like his last act in Flash Town, I forget which town he's from, was being
Central City,
being put on trial for murder, being convicted for murder,
manslaughter.
Yeah, sorry, but it's
I just want to say at this point, Wade was giving a lot of interviews, and he said, like, when you're talking about the context of it, he said that like from the day he took over as Flash, everybody would hound him at like cons and stuff all the time. When are you bringing Barry back? When are you bringing Barry back? Nobody gives a shit about Wally. And Wade, like, I've read so many things about him being like, "Is this what you wanted, you sniveling pieces of shit?"
That's great.
Yeah.
And it starts out with, well, like we said before, Green Lantern became evil, but it's actually Green Lantern fighting evil evil Barry Allen.
Yeah, to give you an idea of how close this is, the Green Lantern issue that ties into this, that is this fight they're referencing, is issue 40, and in issue 48 he becomes Parallax.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I think might drive him over the edge.
Yeah.
So while he's watching TV,
He's got a 5 o'clock shadow, so you can tell he's been like alone and grumpy for a long time.
yes, and he's got just like food everywhere, empty pizza boxes, and he's just watching the fight of Barry and Hal Jordan on TV, and he's just like, "This is bullshit." And he's like, he was like, "I used to call myself Flash too. I did it to honor Uncle Barry because he was my mentor and my friend. I trust him with my life." And then he's recapping what's going on.
But like,
and
I want to point out, because this is what made me really love the story. The narration makes it important because he says like, "I lost my powers. I gave up my powers. I've done all this stuff in the past." But I've always basically was trying to live up to Barry. But now everything I've been built my life towards was a lie. Like, Barry's a piece of shit. I waste my life trying to honor a piece of shit. I'm not the Flash anymore. I'm just Wally West for the first time since I was 10 years old.
This time my powers are intact. It's my identity that's been revoked. So usually, like, when you have your powers lost, it's like you're still this person, but now it's like, who is he if now this guy's the Flash? And he says, like, he told Linda he's alive, but everyone else still doesn't. Like, everyone doesn't know that he's alive. Everyone else.
And I love that, like, it's those little touches that, like, enforce their relationship to me. Is he was like, "I told Linda, but, like, everybody else, thinks I'm dead, maybe because I wish I was." And, like, there's, throughout, like, every story, Linda is always there as he calls him, his lightning rod. Like, that, and, like, that's something that, I feel like this is the era of DC when that became a thing where the relationships became more partnerships than just like, gotta save the love interest.
Yep.
Like every time, like they're actually people.
Yeah.
So then we have some more commentary on Flash fans where there's these 3 construction guys sitting there and they're just like, "What happened to Shiny Suit Flash? That one's my favorite." And he's like, "Nah, he's dead. The original's better." And then some old guy's like, "Show some respect. Jay Garrick's been around forever."
He says like the Silver Age Flash when I grew up was the best, and all these older guys saying, "You think he's the original? I didn't know the actual original. Fuck you. You're just a privileged fucking asshole thinking your Silver Age Flash is the best because you grew up with him."
Yeah.
It's like one word bubble, not all that.
They're on like the scaffolding, all at the top eating lunch, and then all of a sudden it starts to shake. And and Wally or
Barry
Allen is at the bottom of this scaffold,
Vibrating it.
just shaking it. And this actually is the scene that, when we find out the explanation of what happened, this is the scene that tipped me off.
So
I'll explain later when we get to it.
Okay. So he's shaking it, and these guys fall off the buildings. But then,
he's dancing, he's shaking it.
yeah. But Johnny Quick, Max Mercury, and Jay show up and save them. And the old guy's like, "Told you, the old guys are the best."
Yeah.
Yep.
And we got a full 2-page spread of Jay being like, "That's enough. I've seen this for weeks now. You're out of control.
You're a
And we're
loose
not gonna
cannon,
let
hand in
this
your
happen."
Flash badge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
pretty
like
much.
3 old speedsters versus him. And I was like, I never thought I would enjoy seeing a bunch of speedsters beat the shit out of each other, but this is great.
Yes.
Yeah, and Barry's like 3 against 1. I don't recognize your friend anymore, but I've heard of you. You're Johnny Quick, the slowpoke, and he like elbows him in the back of the head as Johnny Quick was trying to go behind him.
And as he's fighting Johnny's like, "Well, I was just here as a distraction." While in the background, Jay and Max are building a brick wall, and he's like, "Is this your feeble attempt to capture me? How pathetic!" And he's like, "I could just vibrate right through this wall." And the other,
Barry's saying that as he's vibrating through the wall.
yeah, and Jay and Max are on the other side. It's like, "Yeah, but you can't see what's on the other side." They punch him in the face.
Yeah.
It's all like Wade uses all these powers really interestingly.
Yeah,
it's
he
fun
does.
to watch these fights.
yeah, he
They
throws
throw-
gravel at them and says, "Eat gravel, old man."
Yeah, basically, like, which makes sense. Like, if you toss up gravel at super speed, it's like bullets. So basically, like gunshots. Johnny Quick with his gravel.
Although
Yeah.
I like how they explain how like these guys have like super healing too, because there's the way their like body metabolism works. But it's like, if the gravel is at super speed is like bullets, then wouldn't their fists also be? But whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he's taken out. Like,
Yeah. But I mean, like, when they punch him in
fist,
the face at
yeah.
super speed, like,
Oh, I see,
isn't that
I see.
like being like exploded in the head? Right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Wally's walking around in a white suit. I do have to say, this story started around Christmas. That means this is after Labor Day. I don't know about that, Wally. But he's
in a dark place right now. He's making dark
He's
choices.
in a dark place. He's wearing white after Labor Day.
So he's walking around the alley that Barry kept getting drawn to, trying to find some clue. And meanwhile, some like
Comic,
Wow.
obviously a comic, like it's the comic book guy from Simpsons, like
yeah, he finds that gross ass mangy book.
Yeah.
And this time we could see that it has a Flash logo on the front. And then we cut back to them fighting. Max Mercury is fighting Barry. He's putting more emphasis on like agility and like sneaking around corners and everything.
Yeah, he takes him up on top of the construction site, on top of the girders. So it's like you have to be more careful up there. You can't just like run around a lot. So he's like flipping around.
But like every superhero fight, all the villain has to do is just throw some guys off a building, and Max jumps off to save them all.
Yep.
And then Jay comes back. he
Barry
hits
says
Barry.
like nice catch, chump, as he knocks out Max Mercury.
This is also the scenes where I thought I was explaining before how I like the way the action's done, where you see Max Mercury doing like acrobatics, and you see him each move like a bunch of still shots of him mid like acrobatic moves that you can really follow the action. Just it's not just like them blurring, punching each other. Like you could do like a DBZ bullshit thing here.
Yeah,
but it's actually pretty cool to see the.
There's some illustrations to what could be just abstract bullshit, like non-engaging fight, but the art keeps a flow to it, which is really nice.
and so then Jay comes back, hits him with a steel girder, and he's like, I got your attention? Good. That's 2 good men you've hurt today, and God knows what you've done with Wally. You know, I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. You've shown me I can't afford that luxury. Don't make me hurt you. And Barry's just like, you talk too much, and like vibrates. So Jay is like knocked off. And then it cuts back to Wally in the alley, and there's this guy is just like, memoir?
The comic book guy.
Iris? Yeah, the comic book guy with the book. He's like, Iris? And Wally just grabs him, and he's like, give me that. And the guy's like, no, it's mine, it's mine. And Wally gives him $20 for this book.
Yeah.
And he's like,
he flips through it,
Iris?
and it's like, my God, oh my God.
Yeah. So then we get more speedster fighting, and you have Jay using his arms as tornadoes to lower himself down from the building. But then Barry just like punches him a million times. And then like it cuts back, and he's like, I want to make headlines again. And he sees all these helicopters come, starting with this one. And you see his fist all bloody.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't see Jay all like messed up and bloody here, but like to me that's very evocative of just like the bloody hand covering like the flash ring.
It's one of those weird things because it feels like like 80s Flash in a lot of ways, with Barry being around. But you see like when he gunshots Johnny, it's weird to see blood with all these colorful costumes appearing.
So, and meanwhile, while he's still like reading the book, he's like, this can't be possible. This is impossible. And then Barry knocks down one of those helicopters. Jay runs up and saves everybody. And he's like, we've got to get out of here before. And then the helicopter
He grabs
crashes.
the people out of the helicopter, and then the helicopter like crashes down and explodes. And before that happens, Barry's taunting him. He's like, because he makes the helicopter start to fail. And he says, my work here is done. Coming, old man? Or are you going to stick around and watch the fireworks? I was like, he's fucking Professor Zoom. I don't know how. I don't know why. Like, this has because all he's been doing is just been making fun of everyone and being an asshole speedster. I'm like, he has to be Professor Zoom.
That's what I did too. When he shook the building, I'm like, wow, that's such a dick move. The only person I could think of who would do that would be Professor. And I was like, wait, is that possible? But like, what villain would have speedster powers? He's not going like snapping people's necks. He's shaking a building to make people fall off. He's like such an asshole.
Yeah, we don't know how yet, but like if you read the story and you knew Professor Zoom at all, you'll know it's Professor fucking Zoom. Like,
yeah, he's such a dickhead. I'm like, the only villain I've seen who is such a complete unrepentant asshole is Professor Zoom.
Makes me legitimately so happy because like, I mean, spoilers for the listener. It is.
It's not spoilers. Like, if you read the story, like we're not going through every single smug asshole thing he says.
Yeah.
Like if you read Professor Zoom at all, this is Professor Zoom. Like Professor Zoom.
If you listen to the last episode, you should know that this asshole is
But
Professor Zoom.
I always get really worried for things like this, especially stories that are framed around like a mystery, because like I'm always worried. There's a lot of comic book bullshit where it's like, I was the villain all along, and everyone's like, that's bullshit. But see, have you guys be like, it's definitely him. Like, that makes me so happy.
Before the reveal even happened. My thing is now I was just like, I just don't know how, 2 things. 1, how did he not die? after.
How does he look like Barry?
Yeah, and how does
Yeah.
he look like Barry? Those are the two things I was
And
curious
and
about.
I thought about the Hal Jordan ring too. I'm like, he tested him and he said he was telling the truth. So I was confused and I wasn't 100% sure it was him. But I'm like, I just can't imagine anyone being such a prick. Like,
Yeah, I'm like
besides-
either they're really Wade's ruining Barry's reputation. Like this is character assassination to the fullest
Yeah.
degree. Or
because it's not like Parallax where he's like, he's going through like some existential crisis. He's not
He's just a
motivated by
dick.
anything. He's just a huge dick.
Yeah, and this is why another reason why this story is great. It's such a great setup because this is basically kind of like Infinite Crisis where weaker Golden Age Superman and modern weaker Superman had to fight somebody as powerful as Silver Age Superman, which was Superboy Prime. Like it's because the Silver Age was the most absurd power level. So now you have the weaker older generations can't fight. I mean, you just saw Jay and Max Mercury and Johnny Quick take him out, and we already know from what we've seen, Wally's nowhere even close to Jay, even compared to Barry. So now it's up to like the modern, much weaker version to take on the broken OP Silver Age version.
Yeah. And one thing to say about Professor Zoom too, he hadn't been seen anywhere since Barry snapped his neck. Like it's not like he was revived some like bullshit way. Like he really was not a part of Wally's story at all, which is interesting. So anyway, the building, the scaffolding explodes when the helicopter hits it, and we see this big chunk of metal just fall and clank on the ground right at the Flash's feet. And this time it's Wally, and he picks up Jay's helmet and he's like, I'm too late. I wasn't fast enough, but those days are over. My name is Wally West. I'm the Flash. And now that I know the secret of Barry Allen, I'm going to bring him down or die trying.
Next issue, Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
I was very invested.
Yes.
I was like, this is great. I was like, the Flash is very good.
Yes. This is all I've ever wanted.
And then it starts out with them doing fake math in the next one.
So this is where we learn about Johnny's powers.
So yeah, but so they had to fake out. That was a complete bullshit fake out. We think Jay's dead because next issue, opening page, Jay's still alive. Like,
which I thought would be like pretty, especially if it was Professor Zoom. It's like he's got to kill a loved one somewhere. So
all the speedsters are with Wally now, and this is where we learn a little bit about their different powers. Like, so Johnny, his like dumb 1940s concept was that he visualizes this math formula that lets him tap into super speed. It's 3x2 9yz4a and factorial. That's why Wally can't get it to work. He needs the exclamation point at the end. But and so that's his thing. Is he's like, you got to picture this construct, this mathematical construct in your head.
But
and
like, that's what it was for. Like literally, that math formula is the source of his powers. But Max Mercury suggests, or he says definitively that no, he's tapping into Speed Force, and that's Johnny Quick is lazy, so he's using a shortcut, and that's Johnny Quick's shortcut. It works for him, but it might not work for you, Wally.
And Max Mercury's whole thing is that he's a Zen speedster. He's like one with himself.
If you're thinking about running, you've already fucked up. Like you need to just go
Feel
with
it.
the speed flow. Yeah.
Be like water, like Quicksilver.
Yeah, so it's raining, and he holds out sand that like falls through his fingers into the water, and he's like, you have to let your power flow like fine sand, like water, like Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And
he's the
like,
Taoist speedster. You know?
Yeah.
So like you have, it's not like thinking or it's something you have to figure out. You have to like make it innate for yourself, like tapping with B-Force, and it basically. Do they suggest it here or do they suggest it later?
Well, this is also when Max kind of psychoanalyzes Wally a little, and he's like, do you ever wonder why you're not as fast as Barry? And Wally's like, well, it's biochemical. It's because, and he's like, no, it's because you're afraid. And he's like, I'm not afraid. I love my powers. And Max is like, but you love your Uncle Barry even more. That's why you took his name and costume, isn't it? In a sense, you did it so the world wouldn't forget him or his heroism. You keep saying you don't want to replace Barry, but the moment you become as fast as him, that's exactly what you'll have done. And Wally's just staring at him, and Max walks away, and he's like, just think about
I like this. It's like it's a common thing where it's more psychosomatic why you can't match your potential, or it's more about a matter of believing you're good enough, becoming good enough, like in an anime. But I like that it makes more sense here in a lot of instances, because if he ever becomes as fast as Barry, as good as Barry, then he just becomes Barry's replacement perfectly. He stops being this thing that he could never live up to. He becomes something that he replaces fully. Like he's as good as Barry was. He is.
Yeah, and then your hero isn't so great anymore because you're
them. Yeah. And so Jay tells him it's like, these things are how we visualize it, but what you really need to trust is you have everything you need. It's in here, and he taps his chest to his heart. All I can give you is my faith, Flash. And he goes, thanks, Jay. Flash, whatever happened to Junior? And he goes, I call people by their names. As far as I'm concerned, you earned yours.
Oh yes, yeah. Jay always called him Junior, but now it's the first time he calls him Flash.
Yeah.
This next scene is what 100% confirmed for me. I'm like, man, a rogue speedster, like I said, I feel like they can just snap everyone's fucking neck in like 2 seconds. But he's like, no, I'm gonna do something different.
This is like very, because this is very Silver Age. Like Phil said, like Joker has super speed powers, he was stabbed around his neck. But a Silver Age villain, like Professor Zoom, who went back in time just so he could do crime and have fun, he will do something like this, which is go to the prison and unlock all the prison cells, and make a police army, a criminal army.
Yeah, steals all the guns from the officers and gives them to all the criminals, and he's like, have fun, Central City.
So one thing I just want to point out before it cuts to that, after Jay's like speech, Wally reads them the book and shows them everything and shows them the book plate in the front, and Jay goes white when he hears the name the book belongs to. Oh my god, who could it be? So then we get Barry being like, just like you guys said, just the biggest piece of
He also, Wally says, I have a plan, but I have to set something up first at the Flash Museum. So he says, you three need to get Barry Allen to the Flash Museum, and I'll take care of it.
This was another thing, like Daryl said, where I'm like, if this was actually Barry, it's not like Parallax at all. He's like literally, this guy hates the Barry Allen as a character because he's like making him into like a sociopath.
Yeah, as soon as you go to a prison and you're like, I'm going to steal all their guns and give them to prisoners, I'm like, this is, for someone that used to be an ex-cop, this is clearly not him.
Just imagine all the fucking hate mail Barry Allen fans are sending right now. So you piece of shit, my
Oh my
favorite
god,
character.
it would be so terrible.
And so Wally goes to the Flash Flash Museum, and gets the Flash's ring that has his costume in it.
Yeah.
Then the older speedsters show up at the prison. They're like, we got to stop you. You can't do this.
Yeah, you have the two non-Jay Garrick guys are taking care of the prisoners and beating them up and stopping them, and Jay's tangoing with the Flash.
But then, as he's beating him up, he takes off his mask, and Barry says, Jay, no more! What are you doing? It's me, your friend! And Jay stops and pauses, and Barry Allen, aka obviously Professor Zoom, says, whoops, you blinked, old man, your mistake. You may have the edge in speed, but what counts now is endurance. He just starts pummeling the shit out of Jay. And Jay rips off his
Flash
Barry's
symbol on his chest and says, you don't deserve to wear this.
And Barry says, how dare you? And he just beat the shit out of Jay. And he actually breaks his leg here, just to say, I'm sick of all these you dogging me, following me around. Let's put an end to it. Just snaps.
This is their version of being like, they might have killed him as a speedster, essentially, by breaking his leg. And I'm like, how are these guys not breaking their fucking legs at some point before this? This can't be the first time they've broken their
they do
bones.
They do this a lot, too, where they break a leg and they act like it's the end of their career. But Phil's right. They'll do this a million times.
For what it's worth, later on, it's Jay's wife that's like, this might be the end of his career. And he's like, speedsters heal real fast. I'll be fine. And he is.
Okay, good.
Also, the way that Barry is running away from Jay here, like the pose that he's in now, this is like full Professor Zoom, where he's like, kind of like hunched over, your hands in like a claw formation, like you're grabbing something. Like he's like, I even like how he's drawn changes.
Yeah.
So he has his torn costume, so he goes to a museum to get his costume ring. And he sees Wally.
He doesn't see Wally. Yeah, he hears looking for this. The costume ring gets thrown at him. And says, "Go ahead, suit up." And when he pulls out the costume, it's not Barry's costume. It's the yellow reverse Flash costume.
Yeah.
And he says, "Looks familiar, does it?" Wally says to him, and he says, "Yes."
Yes,
ultimate power.
And then it shows that you left this biography behind, didn't you? Because you're not Barry Allen. This biography of Barry Allen, that's the book that was left behind. It shows Flash's life entirely in detail from birth to death, but it couldn't have been published in our time because Barry's identity isn't public knowledge yet. It had to come from the future. You're not Barry Allen. You're Eobard Thawne, a.k.a. Reverse Flash, a.k.a.
Adrian. What the fuck? That missed
Adrian Zoom.
And now we get the most comic-y issue of the set.
Yes.
Oh, this is so weird now. Because I was like, how are they going to explain this?
This assumes a looped timeline when they never assumed it before.
Yeah, so
I'm into it, guys.
This is
This
is a triple size issue, and a good 30% of it is just like all exposition dump from Zoom, which I was like, that's fair. After he killed Iris, that was like half that comic was him talking about that.
Yeah.
And so he explains So I don't even know where to begin with this.
So he talks about how he was a Barry Allen fanboy in the future.
And people didn't care about heroes anymore, so he discovered...
Because when there's no crime, you don't care about heroes.
Right. But he was obsessed with the idea of, like, heroes, and so he was always reading books and studying Barry's life, being like, man, everyone should respect him. He's so great. I wish I could be him.
Yeah, he was my friend, he even says. I knew everything
I
about
grieved
him. The
for him.
centerpiece of my memorabilia collection was a rare edition, the primary source of what Flash lore had survived the ravages of time, the definitive biography of Barry Allen.
And this is also when they explain, when you guys asked last time, and I know this is not, it doesn't make those previous stories any better, because this was years later, damage control kind of stuff, but when you're like, why doesn't everybody have speed powers? And it says it cost him an entire fortune and years of his life trying to recreate that electrochemical bath that gave Barry his powers. He he uses the plastomorph machine, so he looks just like him.
That's how he looked like him.
Yes, he looks really fucking weird. He has like a super exaggerated Superman curl, basically, where it's like going down half his full face.
Also, I just want to point out the when you were talking the ultimate collector's item was not the biography, which he stole from a museum. The ultimate collector's item that he killed an antique shop owner for was an old, broken down treadmill from the days of the Flash.
This is what I find weird when he says no crime feature, because he just killed somebody and no one busted him. Like how is that? Makes no sense. You should have been.
Again, a world in which crime doesn't exist, I'm like, that doesn't really work.
I think I never took it as it is like literally impossible to do crimes. I took it as like we're at a utopia where it's so minimal that
So
it's like
rare.
the society is not defined by crime the way ours is.
My rationalization for this was whatever seedy underground you used to get these antiques, maybe they're not like super monitored like every other part of society might be. Maybe that's another explanation.
As he's doing this exposition dump too, I like that Wade intersperses this with Wally running at him as he's talking, and the Flash and Professor Zoom just like grabs him and throws him down and stuff, and just keeps talking. So it's not like Wally's just like, oh, very interesting.
But Wally's plan is to make him keep talking, because he wants him to. He knows Eobard Thawne loves to exposit, and he basically just wants to exposit. He wants Eobard Thawne to exposit his entire backstory, while make it seem like he's like antagonizing him in midway. So he keeps running at him, but really he wants Eobard to keep fucking talking.
I like at one point he throws this like spike at him, and Eobard's just like, I thought I died and gone to heaven, and he slams it out of the way, and he's like, just like, don't do that again.
Yeah.
I'm speaking.
Yeah, and so now that Eobard has his like Flash costume, he looks like Barry Allen, and he has the book. He's like, and he has the treadmill. It's like, now I'm gonna run on the treadmill and go back in time and try and get an autograph. But
Well, he also wants to become Barry's friend and partner.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he was unprepared for like the temporal travel. So the winds of time nearly tore him apart, so it destroyed his suit. And nevertheless, in a blinding ball of energy, I materialized in the wrong era. And he realized that he's still teleported to after Barry had died.
Yes.
And
So
he goes
spoilers
to the
is-
Flash Museum and he finds out, which is like, I think that's like kind of a neat twist, is he finds out that basically the Flash was killed by Eobard Thawne.
No, he finds out that
I mean, the
Eobard
Flash-
Thawne
no,
was
yeah.
killed by the Flash.
And he realizes he was Eobard Thawne.
Yeah, he's like, wait, that me? And he's like, how could it be destined that my idol is going to kill me? And
So this is not really a spoiler, because Wally just assumes this at the end. But this basically is Eobard, how he became Professor Zoom before he ever met Barry. He first met Wally right now, and this triggered him becoming Professor Zoom in Barry's time.
Yeah, this is like the Professor Zoom origins, because he never had tangled with Barry beforehand.
Yeah, which is really, like, if this happened now, I would appreciate it more. Because for me, this is a failed attempt to introduce some sense to time travel in DC, where I know before and after this point, it never made any fucking sense. But it
is very weird, because it's like, he's reading this book about Barry Allen's like adventures, which would have the
That
Professor Zoom in it,
Eobard
right?
Thawne killed Iris, right? In it?
Theoretically, it would. And
Well, I actually, DC published this book. I have it. I'm going to look at what's in it.
Oh my god. So the other thing too is like I appreciated that it went into a lot of backstory about like all this stuff and tried to rationalize it, but I feel like almost the most simplest thing you could do Because you can be like, he got like face surgery to look like him. I'm like, okay, I guess like 25th century technology would allow you to do that.
Yeah,
But the thing for me is like the fact, because I was like, how is Professor Zoom back? But if he's a time traveling guy, this could, like, I like the idea of this being an earlier incarnation of him.
Yeah.
And he's just coming back, like, maybe he knows he's going to die to Barry Allen, but he's just coming back, like, before he fights with Barry Allen or in between one of the times, just to mess with Wally West. I'm like, that makes a lot more sense than this, like, closed time loop they're trying to tie together.
And also, it's a very hand-wavy one because they explain all the plot holes basically by saying Professor memory gets wiped every time he time travels.
It's that he goes like crazy because it's like he was still remembered here, but after realizing that the Flash kills him, he starts to go like mad, and then he starts to believe he's Barry because the Flash, like, he'll become the Flash instead. So he can't, like, Barry won't kill Eobard Thawne because he's not Eobard Thawne anymore. He's Barry Allen now. He's the Flash.
This feels like we're reading Shady Change Man again, where
Now,
I become
for
you and you become me, and I killed you being me.
Yeah.
Okay, for what it's worth, I think the explanation is a little more. It's a little less hand wavy than you're saying. I'm not necessarily saying that it's perfect.
No, but I'm saying any weird inconsistencies, like when he does time travel, any weird inconsistencies they explain as, oh, he just forgot his memory. Everything else is overly explained.
But that's not what they say.
Okay, so go explain.
What happens? So the reason why his memory is wiped the first time is because he has this nervous breakdown when he sees that his idol kills him. Which, like, okay, that's comic booky, but like whatever.
Yeah.
At the end, they're like Wally. Well, I'll get to it when we get to the end.
Okay.
Because they do explain it. It's not just time travel wipes your memory.
No, but that seems more. It's overly explained, and that make more sense of what time travel.
Let's just wait till we get up to it.
They're fighting still, and he's telling him, like, yeah, I won't die because Barry will never kill Eobard Thawne because, like you guys said, I'm Barry Allen now. Barry's gone. The other Barry's gone. And he's like, as long as I stay in this time, I can never be killed by the Flash.
And so he tries to, like, go and destroy the cosmic treadmill. So he's like, this way, I'll forever be stuck in this time. So it won't be like, I'll never travel back to where I get killed by Barry.
Wally's like, you're just changing history. And he's like, no, you're trying to confuse me with clever paradoxes. I'm here in the flesh. Nothing can change that.
Because he's like, if Wally says, if you destroy that, you'll never have come back.
I know, but I like that. This is not the thing that makes him not do it.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you're not going to confuse me with your dumb comic book fucking time travel logic. Like, fuck you.
But then Wally's like, you're just a fanboy, and this is the holy grail of Flash collectibles. Go ahead, destroy it. See if I care. And he's like, fine. I'm fine. You win.
I appreciate that. Like, if they had him use time travel paradoxes, try to, like, bullshit it now, I would be like, fuck you. But the fact that he just says, you're a fanboy, you're going to destroy the other collector's item, he's like, no, I gotta go after you now.
The cosmic treadmill, how dare you,
Yeah.
don't touch that. And then I love Hal Jordan shows up to fight him, and it's the same thing again as last time, where it's like, Hal puts him in a cage where he's like, yo, check it out, I'm yellow.
Yeah.
How does he not, like, just fucking grab his feet and just shake him a lot or something like that?
I just love that this is Hal keeps showing up to try and fight the one guy he can't fight.
And
Yeah.
it's like
Superman could come up and, like, solve this problem, but
That's
it's
the
always
thing.
Hal being like, I love you, Barry, I'll come
Superman
help
was
you.
dead.
Oh, okay, yep.
But no, that's still one somewhat plot hole. I don't know if you want to consider, but they explained that when Barry first appeared, they didn't want to tell everyone, like the Justice League, that he was back because they want to keep it secret for now. But after he starts terrorizing Central City,
Yeah, it'd be
you would
on the
think,
news, right?
You would think like Wonder Woman or somebody would be like, "Hey, stop."
Yeah, it's a plot like convenience or contrivance that it's just Hal that shows up. Anyway,
I mean, it's the kind of thing you have to accept in all shared universes.
I know.
yeah, where it's like the person that shows up
is
is the person that, like, can't beat him. It has to, like, here we know it's going to be Wally that has to defeat him.
It's tough because Michael is trying to address it, but because it's tough because this story's happening too long of a time frame for it to make sense. Like, if this happened within a few days, like, you could say like Justice League is too busy at the time. But this has been going on for days. He's been terrorizing this fucking city.
I mean, at this point, the Justice League is basically non-existent because Doomsday had just put them all in a coma.
That is fair. And then, if the Justice League was around, who's gonna fucking save them? Fucking Blood Rain?
It's Booster Gold's coming to save the day.
Hal does do one thing smart where he grabs rocks with his green and then puts the rocks against them, and he's like, well, now it's not my green touching the yellow, it's
Yeah,
these
it's your rocks.
But then he's like, I vibrate this shit.
I'm not touching your rule for his powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but one thing about Hal, though, is he mainly is he's here to try to, like, Professor Zoom is about to kill the other three speedsters, Hal gives them enough time for them to get away, and he causes the Reverse Flash to run away. I don't think his goal is to beat him. I think his goal is to, like, stop him from killing everybody.
Yeah.
Which he does do.
Yes, he does. But it's just funny because the yellow power being brought up against. So it's funny.
And so they, Professor Zoom vibrates through, like, the wall to get away from, like, the rocks that were covering him. And, like, he says, I'll be back to rub Wally West out of the picture just as I have Jay Garrick. So then they go and see Jay, and this is when it's like, oh, you know, my leg's just broken, but I'll be fine.
So while they're at the hospital... right,
Wally shows them the journal he got, the life of Flash, and he shows them who wrote it, and they're like, but what? And...
yeah. And while they're there, Linda is on TV interviewing the mayor about this new Flash stuff, and Eobard Thawne shows up, kills the mayor,
vibrates through his chest to grab the microphone.
Vibrates through his chest, and then he's just like, I'm the Renegade Flash, see? I'm the best. I'm Professor Zoom. Fuck you guys.
I'm going to put my hand through another one of your girlfriends, another Flash's girlfriend's head.
He says, surely you don't mind if I pick your brain. Which is pretty good.
But so he does this, because basically he's like, you all thought Barry Allen was this, but actually it was me. I'm taking credit for all I did. Everyone's gonna remember the name Eobard Thawne now, basically.
Yeah. And he actually wasn't gonna kill Linda. It was just he wanted Wally to get here so he could be like, fuck you again.
Yeah.
And then they have their big fight.
But it's also a cool panel where Wally, one split second, you can see their hand getting closer towards Linda's head, and Wally's swimming past through all the city. You see the massive tidal wave created by him running through the city, see papers flying in one other panel, and Wally. It's just a really cool, like, artistic thing.
Yeah.
And so begins the final face-off. All around me, I hear cracking noises. It takes a moment to place them. There are sounds of Thawne's fist breaking the sound barrier. He hits like a jackhammer. And it's Thawne basically just beating the shit out of him throughout, like, multiple panels.
And then he has to do, like, the anime thing where he's like, if I accept...
He says, I'm afraid of replacing Barry Allen, but I'm more afraid of letting this bastard do this.
Yeah.
So he says, like, from now on, when they remember the Flash, they'll remember me. And Wally's like, then he goes and says something stupid. And this is when he gets up, and he's like, you know, that thought you said you had that I might not be able to stop him on my own, put it out of your head. And he kisses Linda, and he runs off, and he's like, Max was right. He was right all along. I am afraid. I'm afraid of replacing Barry. As he's chasing him through the rain, he's like, but I'm more afraid, as Lai said, of letting this bastard do it. And he punches him in the face. And it recaps,
in the back
like,
of the head, and then he, like, stumbles.
They
ran back to the Flash Museum, so he, like, flies down the hallway.
Yeah. When I was 10, the lightning changed my life. But in just 1 second, it gave me the chance I needed to turn my world around. Since Barry's death, my speed has waxed and waned. I never thought the electric power that sparked it could ever be recaptured. I was wrong. The power is within me. It always was. And now that I need it, it's back to stay. At last, we're evenly matched. And as they're fighting, now Thrawn starts to look more and more scared.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're locked in a stalemate. And they just keep, they're like exploding statues. It's like, it's not about speed. It's about endurance, concentration, and luck. And then Wally slips in a puddle.
Yeah. And then Thawne, like, hits him with the statue's arm. And so he drops to his knees. Wally does.
But Wally's like, I just need 1 second to recover. And then as Eobard about to slam him with the statue arm, a bolt of light comes from the sky and interrupts their fight. And Wally whispers, thank you. You know, obviously he's Barry from heaven. So
well, it's the Speed Force.
I think it was Barry.
The fact that he was looking at, like, the reader, I was like, is he thinking, like, Mark Waid or us for believing in him? I don't know.
Alright, so I think it's Barry. Then I think it's Mark Waid, and mine thinks it's Speed Force.
Yeah, and then
Phil thinks it's lightning.
I was like, whatever.
Well, so Zoom's like, stop, and he's like, this close to the finish line, forget it. And the whole time he's like, please, no more, you can't do this to me. And he's just beating the hell out of him. And he's like, not me, I'm Barry Allen. He's like, is that so? Mister, I knew Barry Allen, and believe me. And it's a 2-page spread of him knocking him out. You're no Barry Allen. You're a pathetic little man who's finally getting what it deserves.
They emphasize that you're no Barry Allen, like very obviously reference to that fucking Dan Quayle.
Yeah. How does it feel, Thawne? How does it feel to become a victim of your own obsession? He slaps him across the face. Welcome to Catharsis Theater. You shook me right down to the ground, you rat bag, and if you think this hurts, rest assured, it's not a fraction of the pain you put me through. And he's like, please kill me. And he's like, kill you? Put you out of my misery? You don't know what a tempting offer that is. Right here, right now, no way. Why, let you off so easy? After all, wasn't it you who reminded me that all history is at my disposal thanks to the treadmill? And Wally runs to the cosmic treadmill, he's like, I'll just terrorize you as a baby.
Yeah. I'm gonna Professor Zoom you now.
Yeah. It's like, maybe I'll just kill you in your crib. And he's like, no, please. And then he chases him on the treadmill and runs to the future. And then it cuts back to Wally and he's like, sucker.
Yeah, because he just like teleported very quickly to the corner of the room.
He ran so fast that Eobard didn't see him run off the treadmill. He just
Yeah,
Eobard he ran to the future.
Because the whole, like, the crux of this is that they knew Professor Zoom was going to end up coming back in time to terrorize Barry, and so you need to make it a closed loop, so Professor Zoom needs to go back to his own time, and so Wally said he was going to kill him as a baby to get him to send back
I
there,
like
yeah.
the explanation, because they're like, how do you know that he had his memory wiped? And Wally's like, well, if he didn't, I feel like the whole space-time continuum would collapse, so it's probably fine.
I know, that's why it's funny. Wally's assuming time travel makes sense in DC Universe, and I'm like, no, that's not, you can't do that, fuck you, Wally.
I think it's great.
Again, if this was like a modern comic, I would be like, okay, DC's finally addressing these time travel issues, but no, DC ignored this immediately after this fucking happened, so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, it is funny that it's like the time travel stuff, like it would have to wipe us, like everything would be fine because if it wouldn't, we would know.
Yeah.
And so then we have like our nice epilogue of Wally hanging out with Linda. And he's saying like it took him a long time to finally come into his own, and now in front of the Flash Museum they now have a statue of Wally, as well as a statue of Barry.
And it turns out that the biography by Life and Story of The Flash, the title page says by Iris Allen, and she says it's written in 1997. So he says Iris has to be out there somewhere because she's got a book to write.
And to me, I was like, okay, for Professor Zoom, a time traveler, I understand. I'm like, how does this normal civilian come back from death? That was a big question mark.
But remember, she was alive in the future.
Yeah, she was alive.
She was that fat guy.
That's why this is a plot hole, because I thought because he says when he's reading the book, all this is like, it sounds incredible, unbelievable to me. I thought he was reading the part by Iris Allen where she becomes a fat person and goes into the present. And
That is in the book. I just looked at it.
Oh yeah, so the page were faded. Okay, so he missed that part, but that would have been the most shocking part to me. The fat man is Iris Allen in disguise.
They also point out that, like, who was it? Max said that there was notes about Wally in there that he could read about himself because they were interesting, and said he just throws the book into the river.
He doesn't want to know.
History is something captured and owned by the pages of a book, but the future belongs to me. My name is Wally West. I'm the Flash.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Because I guess you wouldn't want to know how your life ends, potentially.
He says, if my story is going to end, I'm like, it is, everyone.
So what did you guys think of The Return of Barry Allen? Sly? 'Cause you hadn't read it before, right?
Yeah, I've read the first part, the Christmas issue, actually.
Oh, okay.
So this was my taste for most comics is, if they're in a comic shop, I didn't know about fucking pull lists or anything back then. I was in the comic shop. I saw the comics on the shelf. I bought it because it looked cool. That was my discerning process for buying comics back then. Mm-hmm. So So I've random comics here and there. I've read really random pieces. Like I've read like the first Black Flash issue of Flash issue and stuff like that.
The Mark Millar run.
Yeah, Mark Millar run.
Oh boy.
So I've read random pieces here and there. But this is my first time reading the whole arc. Aside from the dumb time travel stuff, which was unavoidable because dumb time travel, I can't even say it. The dumb stuff is tied in with Eobard Thawne. So,
Yes.
So aside from that, I thought this was a 10 out of 10 comic.
Oh, wow. Cool. What about you, Phil? What'd you think?
I really liked it. I was like, I'm definitely like, I could see being a Flash fan from reading this. I don't mean this in a bad way. The speedster stuff always is the most anime stuff that comics get from me because like the fact that all of them, their power levels don't matter. They all can just kind of keep up with each other. It's one of those things I thought about this with when he was fighting Professor Zoom in our last episode. It's like if they have any difference in speed, they wouldn't be able to keep up with like one of them would always be in the lead or something. But with this, it's like it doesn't really matter. They can all just keep up with each other and fight each other until the story requires that someone gets their ass beat. And it's okay because they're really fast at doing cool stuff. So I'm like, I don't need it to make sense there. I'm like, it's cool that they're fast and like it is anime in a good way for me. And I thought the family stuff was really compelling. It was interesting how he's trying to deal with the legacy of his hero. I liked that, like you said before, the Professor Zoom stuff isn't like how could I ever have seen that coming? Because from the moment, like I said, he shook that building, I'm like, what asshole would do that? I know who that is. And I thought it was really cool. really would. I would read more Flash. I will. I'm gonna
Well, you don't have a
I
choice.
Again, he's straight up in the basement. He has no say in this.
Yeah.
What about you, Daryl?
I thought it was good, but it's far from my favorite kind of stuff. I think for me, like, reading through it, there were a couple things that I was realizing. One thing is, like, how I'm like, oh, man, I hate Superman. I'm sick of him. Part of it isn't necessarily I hate Superman himself. I just hate how deified he is and how much people just, like, love how good and pure he is. And the thing, like, I don't resonate with Wally, even though he looks up to Barry and stuff. I just don't like Barry that much to be like, this is such a struggle because Barry was so good. I'm like, maybe I'd have to read more, but my feeling on Barry is like...
That'll probably make it worse.
Yeah, my feeling on Barry is like, who gives a shit, really? But it's unfortunate that he died, but like his legacy wasn't anything important. It seems like one of those things where it's like comic fans are kind of determining how important his legacy is, and I don't like feel it.
Well, the
whenever
thing that I like...
I think my perspective is colored by... I read a lot of stuff after. When we read Identity Crisis and stuff, that was Wally realizing Barry was capable of doing shady shit. But even in the 70s, when the defining story is Barry snapping a guy's neck, I always had the assumption that Barry wasn't this untouchable deity. It's just Wally's perception of him.
Well, that's the thing that's what I was going to say too. I like that in this book is it's more that like Wally views him that way. Like all the narration is he gave me purpose. He gave me life. It wasn't that he was this perfect guy. It was that like he was my hero.
Okay. No, it's just I'm just trying to think of. It's just like it doesn't resonate with me as much because I don't care that much about Barry, even if it's like I feel more for Wally there.
Well, that's good because I like Wally a lot more.
Yeah, Wally's my favorite.
And one of the other things I realized too, like I really enjoyed like the Christmas stuff and the one where Barry's back, like the one where Barry's back and Wally's trying to figure out whether or not it's Barry was the most like interesting one to me because I think that is like a unique dilemma. And I also like, again, like Jay and Wally's relationship with each other rather than just like stuffing Barry in there. But I also realized I think like Professor Zoom is like your Eisen, where he's just like this guy that you love every time he's on screen. And I just do not care about Professor Zoom, really. I'm like, he's an asshole. Okay. Like, that's kind of fun, but like my villain that I love so much is the guy that's like, I'm 10 million steps ahead of you. I'm Nemesis. Like I planned this for 20 years. I was gonna do this thing rather than like, I'm just gonna shake these girders until these guys fall off and then make a helicopter crash and then just run away and like make fun of you.
Well, I'm very curious what you think going forward because there will be no more Professor Zoom.
Really?
In this Flash story.
Yeah, this is all rogues of Flash, not just Professor Zoom one.
So that's funny. Like halfway through this, I was like, I thought Ryan said each episode was about
Professor
a
Zoom?
a Flash villain, and I'm like, I guess Barry going rogue could be one of them. But
So for the first episode, it's Barry versus Eobard. The second episode is Wally versus Eobard. So now we're gonna get to more Wally-centric stuff. So that the next episode is for listeners who are Flash fans. We will be covering a couple lead-in issues, but the primary bulk of the episode will be the Jeff Johns story Blitz, which I am very interested to see what you guys think of.
I'm interested in seeing whether or not like, because Professor Zoom is memorable. Like I don't like him that much, but he is very like every time he shows up, you're like, oh shit, not this guy.
the best thing about Professor Zoom is if this was a Batman villain, it'd be fucking infuriating. But since Flashes actually know how to dispatch him properly, I'm like, okay, they actually has a satisfying resolution how to deal with him every time. But if Batman just fucking lets this guy,
You send him to jail in the future.
Yeah, the original Flash. But then when he realized he was actually a threat. Barry snapped his fucking neck. Like, everyone knows I'm not fucking around with this fucking guy, but Batman will fucking fuck around with this guy forever. Like,
yeah. And the only thing that really happens in between now and Jeff Johns' run that's worth noting is Barry and Linda get married.
You mean Wally and Linda?
That's what I meant to say, yes.
I was like, that is a twist.
Wally and Iris get married, and Barry and Linda get married.
Damn it.
Iris.
Yeah, Wally and Linda get married after... I'm not going to get into it, but they get married.
Wait, does Barry come back?
No.
No, not until Jeff Johns writes Flash. Second time Jeff Johns.
I appreciate for how long Barry is at.
Yes.
Because I'm definitely firmly on train. Fuck Barry. Like, stay dead, please.
Yeah, we are not going to be reading anything on the show from after Barry coming back. And everyone blames Jeff Johns. Grant Morrison's the one who brought him back, for what it's worth.
That's a good point. I keep forgetting it was because Jeff Johns wrote Flash Rebirth, and I keep assuming it's him. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we will be doing, in case anyone is reading along, we'll be doing the Hunter Zolomon story from Secret Origins and Files 3, the Grodd story leading up to Blitz, and then Blitz. So you guys ready to meet Gorilla Grodd?
Oh boy, big monkey man.
Yes.
I just love DC and their monkeys.
But primarily it's going to be Blitz, which is a story that I really, really love. So
Stay tuned for our eventual Patreon episodes being released, because we're going to talk about monkeys in DC.
Oh, yeah, I forgot if we did all those. Cool. So we will see you guys back next week. Thank you for listening to Divisive Issues. I've been the Zen Master of Speed.
I'm a Barry Allen, and you're no Barry Allen.
I've been thinking about the Pythagorean theorem to run real good.
Yeah. I've been mentally scarred by time travel.
Stay in continuity.
No, this isn't happening. There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?